Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, Tank12, however you call me, I don't really care. Welcome back to World of Tanks related content. I should be packing for my trip to Milano, but there are two little things I want to cover first. First and foremost, we are getting some first looks at two new tanks. One of them is the M Project, which has just been released on the Super Test. It's an American heavy tank, no, medium, excuse me, at tier 8. It's probably going to be another premium. And the other one is a new French vehicle called the, let me check real fast because I forgot the name, Char Mle.75, which we'll cover as well. So without further ado, let's take a look at the American M Project. So it's a tier 8 medium tank and it's supposed to have a 105mm gun. 320 alpha damage, which is kind of the new norm for a medium tank at tier 8, so you can't really complain too much about that. Armor penetration on the AP shell is pretty damn impressive. 230 millimeters of penetration, 300 on the heat shell on the premium one, 53 on the high explosive, which is not as impressive, but the reload time kind of makes you suffer a bit. 9.6 seconds is, yeah, it's quite a long time for 320 alpha. Aim time 3 seconds, also not the best, and dispersion at 100 meters is on the at the same time not a very good thing. 0.44 at 100 meters. That's actually quite atrocious if you think about it, especially for an American tank. You do have great gun depression, and you carry enough ammunition if you really need to play this tank, and you need to play a long game. 10 degrees of gun depression is going to get you through most of the rough patches. Now, aim time and dispersion you can obviously improve with the right equipment, the crew, so I think you can make that better. Reload time as well. The top speed is 40 kph. You can improve that to 45, so it's an American tank that is, once again, not the fastest, but what's really shocking is the reverse speed of 15 kph. That's really bad. The power to weight or power that you have on a tank is 800 horsepower for a medium tank. That's actually quite a lot. Specific power to weight ratio 17 horsepower per ton, which is actually for a medium tank with this kind of loadout, at least with the armor, it's quite good. We'll get to the armor in a second. Hull traverse and turret traverse, on the other hand, aren't very good, 32 degrees and 30 degrees. The tank itself reminds me of the Super Pershing because it's very similar to it, and it looks kind of like an M41 that has been completely upgraded with additional armor. But I have never heard of the M Project, and I don't really know what it is. Now, 1,300 hit points, that's about average for a tier 8 medium tank. Hull armor 102 millimeters at the front, 76 on the side, 51 at the back. So it's probably a Pershing hull with welded on armor at the front that could be acting as a heat shield. We'll have to see in the future. Like, all of the characteristics are not final, so we don't know if this is going to be the tank that they are going to be releasing with these kind of stats. But the turret armor seems to be a bit of an issue for me. 330 millimeters of armor at the front is a bit excessive for a tier 8 medium, if you ask me. A bit much. 64 on the side and 76 at the back, on the other hand, that sounds like a very easy to go through. But 300 millimeters, like above 300 millimeters at the front, is a bit excessive. View range at 390 meters, that's decent. And signal range is not that important, but it's the average. So it's going to play like an aggressive medium tank, all in your face, because the penetration is very good, but the reload time and the accuracy are kind of lacking. So I have a feeling it's going to be a similar situation like the Super Pershing, just without the turret weak spot. I don't see a turret weak spot right here, and I really hope that there is something at the front, because else this is going to be a really toxic hull down tank once more. So yeah, we're moving on to the French vehicle, the Char Mle.75. Okay, so we're going to cover the Char Mle right now, and this is actually quite an interesting one, because you can see that the stats, there are a lot more stats than on the M Project. And for good reason, because this seems to be one of the most interesting new tanks coming in the near future. because it actually has a new mechanic, or a mechanic I never heard of, according to the description that is below the stat card. I was first very confused, so excuse the cut because I was telling some nonsense. I read into it a little bit more, and now I finally know what the tank is all about. So the Char Mle.75 is a tier 9 light tank with some very interesting features. It has a 100mm gun with AP and APCR as premium shells, 200mm of penetration with the AP shell, 240 with the APCR shell, and 250 alpha damage with a single shot. So all in all, doesn't sound to be that impressive. The damage that you can do on this vehicle with a full clip is 1500 HP. So that is quite impressive because you can fire 6 shells when you have one entire magazine loaded. But before we get to that, you need to know that there's a rapid mode on this vehicle. This is the first light tank with the rapid mode, I think. We already have the rapid mode on the medium tanks for the Polish tank tree, but the rapid mode on French light tanks is a very new thing. So this rapid mode is going to improve mobility, obviously, but it's also going to decrease DPM. As you can see, when you are firing rapid mode, you only have 1000 damage potential because instead of carrying 6 shells in your magazine, you only carry 4 shells. And the intra-clip reload goes up, and the aim time goes up, the turret traverse goes down by quite a staggering amount. Now, as always, all of these characteristics will be subject to change, but we'll get to the very interesting thing about this tank right now. So, the reload time is 45 seconds. That's quite a long time, but 6 shells, that's quite a lot of ammunition. The reload time between bursts is 3.5 seconds. Now that is the interesting part because intra-clip reload is 0.4 seconds. Now, one single shot, you have to wait 0.4 seconds to get the second shot out and then the third. Now the interesting thing is you cannot fire them one by one. You actually fire an entire clip when you click once. So it says right here, when you fire in a standard mode, the gun releases a burst of 3 shells with an interval of 0.4 seconds. So you have one magazine that has 6 shells, but you have 2 clips. And in these 2 clips, you fire 3 shells in 1.2 seconds, or no, to be more exact, 0.8 seconds. So you actually cannot decide to only fire 1 shot. You will fire 3, which sounds really weird, and I'm very confused that you cannot kind of, stop your gun from firing. But what they say is that you fire all 3 rounds at once, like in that time, in those 0.8 seconds, depending on if you're in rapid mode or not, and then you have like the ability to fire again another 3 shells. But you cannot stop firing, so you will have to fire. So when you get behind a tank that is on low HP and you finish him off with 1 or 2 shells, you will always waste the third one, or you will waste the second one and the third one together. Could be very well possible. Now, if you're in rapid mode, you will only fire 2 shells instead of 6 because you only have 4 shells loaded. So that's going to be a very interesting mechanic. Because it will mean that you will have to really be sure what you want to hit. You have to be really selective. You don't want to be wasting ammo because you have a long reload time. It's an autoloader with some very interesting extra perks, like an autocannon. It seems like an autocannon that you cannot stop from shooting. So basically, the one thing that could save you is that you fire the first 3 shells, and then you have the ability to still fire 3 more shells, but you can decide if you want to fire them or not, or you always have to think about if you want to fire or not. Now, moving on to aim time, you can see it also kind of gets affected by rapid mode, 2.5 seconds. Dispersion is fairly decent for a French tank, 0.35 meter dispersion at 100 meters. Traverse speed is incredibly broken when you're in rapid mode, 20 degrees per second. That's really bad. 65 degrees per second if you're in non-rapid mode, so you have to really think about if you want to travel in rapid mode or not, and they really want you to switch between those modes. Gun elevation and depression, 8 degrees of gun depression, 36 ammo that you have on your vehicle. It's a French tank, you're not going to get tons of ammunition, so that might be a problem as well. Then the switch between standard and rapid mode, from standard to rapid is 1 second, but for rapid to standard is 3 seconds. So that's 3 times longer than for standard to rapid. So you really have to know when you're going to switch the modes. Now, maximum speed, this is going to be really interesting because the reverse speed is terrible without, or it's not terrible, but for a light tank, it's kind of lacking or lackluster when you're going backwards, but you get 45 kph when going backwards with the rapid mode, which is amazing. 78 kph going forward in the rapid mode, 55 without it. You get like 400 horsepower more when you have the rapid mode enabled, raising it up to 1400 horsepower, and specific power to weight ratio increases from 33.8 horsepower per ton all the way to 47.3 horsepower per ton. So that's a steep incline or increase. Hull traverse speed is pretty good, and it doesn't change depending on rapid mode or not, 60 degrees per second. But what is really weird is that it actually has an impact on view range. When you're in rapid mode, you do not get the same view range as you have when you're in standard mode. So the standard mode, you get 390 meters view range. In rapid mode, only 370. So that means this tank can actually get you into a place in rapid mode, but you are not very good at scouting during that time. But when you deploy the standard mode again and you're in a bush, you're basically a scout just like any other. So a very interesting tank, Char Mle.75, much more interesting than the Project M. This is a tank I'm going to keep my eyes out because it looks like it's going to have a lot of features that will be really interesting. And I really hope it's not going to be a premium one, or at least I can kind of play it, because I'm not intending on spending any money, even though there are quite a lot of positive signs in the last couple of weeks coming from Wargaming that they want to change some things. So hopefully you guys did enjoy. Tell me what you think about the Char Mle.75, and I'll see you guys on the next time until I'm back from when I'm back from Milano, hopefully in one piece. So I'll see you guys until then. Have a good one.